Hello friends, welcome back to another debugging video. So this video is going to be about the Spring uh, dependency injection techniques and how uh, it can create some silent bugs that are even difficult, that would be difficult to trace or something. So let's see. For this demo purpose, I have created very minimal configuration. So there is one database client that we are going to create multiple beans. So let's suppose there are two or more. At right now I have kept two database beans, and there is one DB service that actually depends on the DB client. So if we see, we are injecting it via the constructor parameter, so it is happening using the constructor injection, and we have defined the DB service as service. Sorry, I have kept everything into a single code. That is very bad. Single class, that is very bad practice, but just for this demo purpose and avoid switching between the classes, I have kept everything into one place so that it is easier to explain and to visualize also. So at very high level, we have two different beans and one service that actually depends on this particular bean of the client. And in the main application, I have just created a application runner so that we can quickly run and demonstrate like how it is working. It uses again the DB service, and it simply calls the call DB, and it call DB method of the DB service just call the DB URL so that we can know which particular DbClient bean got injected. So we'll see how we can create even silent bugs. So with the current setup, let me quickly run this application. So I'll just run the hello application. So since we have two different beans or multiple beans, and we are trying to inject into one, as you expect, what would happen? Spring will complain that it has found multiple beans. The parameter 0 of the DB service, that is the 0th parameter, required a single bean, but there were two beans found. That is as expected. So the two beans are DB1 client and DB2 client. Perfect. So what we should do in these cases, like they are very kind. They have even they're telling that you can make it primary, or you can use, like, maybe you inject a list of DB clients here, or you can use qualifier. So let's do one thing, like, as most of you would be aware, in these situations we would use qualifier. And I want this particular flavor, or want to connect to this particular bean, the database, and let me run it again. So this is one of the method to tell Spring that I want this particular type of bean. So by default, Spring resolves by the type. If it has a matching type, it injects that. If it is like multiple uh, beans of the same type are available, then it uses qualifier, primary, and another technique that is like using bean name for the injection that will show. So right now this works perfectly fine, and our application runs, and we are seeing that okay, we have indeed injected the DB1 client using the qualifier. All looks good. Let us see how it works with the another option, that is making it as primary. So right now I want to make it DB2 as my primary bean. So primary, in other words, if we say, we are telling the Spring that wherever bean name, you should resolve this particular bean or use this particular bean for any injection points where you will see multiple beans or something similar situation is happening. So again, if you see, connecting to DB2, perfect as expected. And there is another third option that we can use, that is like, if we don't have qualifier or primary, then there's another option we can use to inject the bean by bean name itself. So we know the bean name would be equal to the method name here, the bean name we have defined. So it would be DbClient. Let me run it again. So again, this is one of the dependency resolution techniques that Spring uses. If it finds the bean name, suitable bean name, it will again inject it. So if you see connecting to db1, that is perfectly fine. This particular bean got injected. So everything looks good, but how this bean name, like injecting the bean by its name, can go trickier. So let's say maybe this bean comes from a library or whatever, and someone makes, let me minimize it. We are using or depending using the bean name to inject the bean, and someone tries to make it as db2, let's say, as primary bean, and we are assuming that it will always, or it will inject the db1 type of bean, but we have someone made the db2 as primary. So what would happen? Let's see. So as expected, since it has a primary annotation on it, so Spring will always inject the db2, but this particular bean. So here if we see connecting to db2, so in even if we have used the DbClient bean name here, but if we are using another bean as a primary, Spring will always inject the primary bean here. That is the behavior. So if let's say bean is coming from another place, or if it is maintained in some other configuration, it can go like trickier to debug also, like what is happening, because if you see, you'll say okay, this particular bean is DbClient, so this should be DbClient, but why it is injecting some different bean? And your application can compile perfectly fine, it will boot also, but during runtime when it will actually run, it will see a different bean type injected, and maybe failing with some error or something like that, depending upon the business logic. But yeah, so this can fail silently, even we won't know. So what would be the preferred approach here? If we want a DbClient here, we should always use a qualifier. If there is a strict requirement that this particular bean should be a particular type of bean, we should always use qualifier then. So even though we have defined it as a primary, but this injection point we are saying I want a particular bean that is DbClient only. So if you see here, even though it is primary, but since we are using qualifier, so it is injecting the correct bean type. So thank you for watching this. If you found this helpful, do please share with your friends. Thank you.